Well, we've featured author Shirley Hickman on our show in the past, and her new novel is getting praise from the industry, as well as my 11-year-old daughter, who says, "Mommy, I just can't put it down." Let's see why we need to fall in love with an orange tree or a book.
I taught English for many, many years, and one of the things I was always looking for, and many of my fellow teachers, where is the book that these young Hispanic kids can read that they can identify with? And I wanted to write a book about some of these young people that I've had the privilege of knowing as students. The book is fiction, but everything in it has happened to somebody I know. The title actually came from a former student of mine. Her parents brought her from Mexico to the United States, and they told her, "You have a choice," her mother told her. "Fall in love with an orange tree or a book." And basically what she meant by that is work in the fields for your whole life or get an education. This young woman did follow her mother's advice. She did go through college, and right now she is the Migrant Education Director of the Porterville Public Schools. So many of the books that I've read, and I've read a lot of books in which Hispanics are major characters, many of them deal with a lot of dysfunctional families. Most of the families I know are highly functional. They have a mother and a father, and they love their kids. And the family in this book is like that. And the main character, Elena, wants desperately to have an education. But what happens is she's working in the fields with her parents, and uniformed men come in and they take her parents away. It's very difficult for her because now she has to support her younger brother and sister and still try to go to school. And she's illegal also, so that means she constantly has to look over her shoulder. Is she going to be deported too? And like so many young people, they live in the shadows. And yet, for all intents and purposes, as she says in the book, "I know that I'm not a citizen, but I'm an American. I've lived here my whole life." The idea of the DREAM Act, which is something so exciting to young people, and what we have in California, and this plays an important part in the book, it means that they will not be deported. They can go on to school, and they can be eligible for scholarships. So this to Elena is just, oh, how wonderful could this be? Because at the end of the book, she talks to her brother Miguel, and she's so excited because they're listening to the speech about this, and she says, "But we'll be able to do this. We'll be able to come out of the shadows. We'll be able to, maybe I'll be able to go to college, and I'll be able to become a teacher." And he said, "But what happens if you don't? What happens if it doesn't happen? And you still aren't going to be a citizen. Maybe you go to college, but then you can't get a job because you're not a citizen. So then what happens?" And then the last line in the book is, so she turns away from Miguel so he can't see her cry. And she says, "Then we'll live in the shadows like we've always done." My dream is that this book would be used in classrooms so that they could say, I can see the choices Elena made. I want to make that choice too. I want to make that choice to get an education.